Hello guys, so I'm gonna do one of these art talk things again, and I thought it would be the perfect time to do one about my university hindsights. So things that I regret, things that I enjoyed, just a mix of different things. A university summary, if you will. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because it has been a year, I think to the week, that I finished university, and I'm having so much nostalgia at the moment because as I'm recording this, the third years, or as I knew them back when I was at uni, the second years are doing their final show or wrapping up on it currently, and I'm having so much nostalgia. Plus, on my last art talk video, I was requested a couple of times to touch on this topic, and with the timing, I thought it was right. Just before I go into the main topic of the video during the commentary, I just want to explain the artwork. It's just some mermaids for Mermaid. They are from my OC Kingdom of Aquaria. With the Aquaria characters, there is about 16 of them, so I am going to be not including some of the Aquaria characters in this video. The footage will be used for a later talking video, if that's okay with you guys. I just had so much footage by the end of it that I just wanted to save it for another video. And also, drawing 16 separate characters is basically 16 videos back to back. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but that's a lot of characters. But drawing all the Aquaria characters meant I could also draw my eel boy, Elias, from my Instagram Designs My Character series from the second round of that series. So I was very, very excited to do a lot of these drawings. I now like to call Elias my grumpy boy because he is a grump. I love him. But let's get into some university experiences, or more specifically, regrets. So before I start, I am just going to give you a little disclaimer. I went to the University of Worcester. Not all experiences are going to be ones that you have if you end up going to university. And I don't mean any hate or disrespect to anyone that might be brought up in this video. That includes former teachers and lecturers. Even though I don't think I'm going to be mentioning them in this video because it's more or less talking about my personal regrets. I just thought I'd say that just so I would get no hate in the comments directed towards my university or my tutors, because without them, I wouldn't be the artist I am now. And they happen to be really lovely people, so I'm definitely not here to hate on anyone. When talking about university regrets, most of them happened in the third year. It's because third year didn't really go very well for me. There were a few things that ended up happening that were completely out of my control and I just couldn't do anything about it. But the first two aren't really necessarily third year based, they're just either in general, and the second one is about first year. So my very first regret is the commute. Now, I decided to commute to university. Now, this for me was difficult because I had to get up at least 2 hours before every class. And that was just for the travel. That wasn't for like getting ready or anything. That was just for the travel. This regret is definitely on the minor side because in some ways I do regret commuting. In other ways I don't, because it just was better financially. It just really wasn't that good on my sleep schedule or my sanity in some ways. To give you a little insight on my commuting days of university, for one way, the train was about an hour. Then on top of that, there was a 10-minute bus ride to the main university campus added on top. Sometimes it could be 20 minutes because of the waiting period between buses, especially when I kept missing the buses by a few seconds. And the brochures would say, for an average weight person, it would be 20 minutes. But no, for For me, it was double that amount of time because I was slow at walking. And I was the best part 4 stone heavier at the time. So yeah, let's just say my weight loss plan is working right now. To give you a little bit of insight about that, the picture on the left was actually taken for my final show. It was actually taken for the program booklet. And the second picture on the right was taken a few weeks back. The difference is amazing. Just to finish off talking about commuting, the one thing I just remembered was that most of my lecturers actually said to me, you need to work on bigger size pieces of paper. You need to do that. But because of commuting, it just made commuting 10 times harder. So I just stuck to smaller size pieces of paper. I think the biggest I would go was about A2. Working at bigger sizes is a hassle, especially when traveling. That's what we've learned. The next regret came from my first year. So in first year, it was very much a simple regret, and it's my stubbornness to actually get into new things and change up my style, because the whole point of a university illustration course, or just any creative course in general at a university, is to expand your skills. Now, if you are not open to change, you are going to have a hard time. And I regret my stubbornness because I probably put my lecturers through hell. I want to apologise to them right now if they ever end up watching this. First year Zoe was a nightmare. Don't be like me and be open to changing and adapting your style into new things. Although there is actually a legitimate complaint where I was actually kind of given a label by my lecturer as the manga kid. Not specifically those words, but it kind of took the form of that, and everybody saw manga in my work. Even if I tried my absolute damned hardest to change up the style and be experimental, everybody saw manga in it, and I could not escape that label. That is the only thing I would change about university, is my lecturer not having that backwards view about that subject. Manga is an art form in itself. Do not discredit it just because it's not your style. I know generally there is a bias against Eastern styles in Western universities. That shouldn't be a thing. That really shouldn't be a thing, but it is. And it's such a disappointment because it's its own art form. When a lot of my final pieces were comics, what do you expect? They're going to look like manga. You can tell I'm a bit salty, but I just really can't stand the bias that goes on in these creative courses. It really needs to go. It needs to be shoved in the bin or down the drain. Please, get rid of it. Leave it at the door. Leave it at home. I know this was supposed to be about my stubbornness, but at the same time, I don't appreciate the label. It's like high school all over again. I didn't come to university for it to be like high school. Can you tell? I'm having a lot of fun recording this commentary. Feels good to get some things off my chest. Now we get into the regrets I actually scripted, which hopefully they should go by a bit quicker than my constant rambling. So my third year regrets. So most of my third year projects I had regrets about. So the main thing is that I wish I hadn't gone with projects that had such close subject matter. It definitely made me more complacent and lazy, and it definitely ended up getting boring, especially after I returned from my mourning period after my granddad's death. And here's the thing about my granddad's death, the timing of it just was so terrible in terms of my university schedule. I was barely keeping up as it was with my work, and his death completely just shot me down. Around the time that he passed away would have been a really good opportunity for me to change what I wanted to do. Yes, I would have had to cram so much time and effort into catching up lost time, but the key point is I would have had time to change my mind on what I wanted to do with my projects. By the time I came back to university, I had to stick with what I had, which the ideas themselves in hindsight were mediocre at best. going more in depth about those projects and the regrets I had with them. So in hindsight, I really think that some of my projects should have been swapped around. And this definitely goes along with the previous point I made about changing up the subject matter so it not to get boring. So the original ideas that I had and that I did were the Negotiated project was a Zodiac comic about the zodiac of Pisces and the story behind it. This project spanned the entire year. It ended up being a 16-page comic, 18 with the title pages, which is available to read on my Instagram if you want to read it. You'll just have to scroll back through quite a few posts. It is there, I do promise you. It was posted halfway through last year. I do have a Tapastic account, so I might actually post it on my Tapastic, or as it's now known, Tapas. My final research project, the one that I actually did the essay for, was about the Victorian royal family. It was kind of like a zine based on them. It was not very good. I don't actually have the final pieces because I lost them. Or should I say the university lost them? Because when I went to go pick them up, they weren't there. So, I don't know. Somebody must have run off with it. I don't know. Because I don't have it and I couldn't find it. I do have scans of it though. But I'm just happy not to have the final pieces again because it's ugly. You'll probably have realised by now that my final research project definitely did not turn out the way I expected. It was really, really bad, as I said. And that one is the main regret. I regret doing that whole project because it was literally built off of nothing. It was built off my love of documentaries of the royal family. That was literally it, and there was no other reason. This regret comes from hindsight, and I think all these following regrets will come from hindsight as well. But hindsight tells me that I should have swapped the Negotiated project, which was the Zodiac comic, to be my final research project, because there's a lot of stuff I could have used to research. There was a lot of different topics. I wish I would have just swapped them around, because honestly, it would have made life a whole lot easier for me. But Zoe, if you had done your Zodiac comic for your final research project, what the hell would have you done for your Negotiated project? Well, this is what I thought of in hindsight, and it's an even better idea than I had back when I was in university, and I wish I would have gone with it, but obviously it's too late now. All I can just do is look back and regret. I sometimes hate hindsight. So this hindsight idea for my Negotiated project was to design a Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer / Ripto's Rage Spring homeworld, including its levels and characters. I wish I would have thought of this earlier. Now, if any of you know Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer or Ripto's Rage, wherever you are, to me it will always be Gateway to Glimmer because my childhood. And you'll also know that it came out in the Spyro Reignited trilogy recently, somewhat recently. Okay, in November. But this would have been such a good idea because I love designing characters and worlds and stuff like that, and it would have been a perfect 2 semesters long to design the entire thing, and I wouldn't have to write up about it at all. I missed an opportunity. Why? I wish I could go back in time and actually do this project because, it just sounds like so much fun. And it would not have been based off the Reignited trilogy either, because at the time, the Reignited trilogy wasn't even announced. It would have actually been based off the source material of the original game, so I could actually have played the original game and it would have been classed as primary research. Because those of you who know the Spyro series, you'll know that Spyro 2 had 3 homeworlds based off the seasons. Summer, autumn and winter. Where's spring? So this would have been an awesome idea because it fills out the question, what if there was a spring world? What would its levels look like? What would the characters look like? So this next regret is something that I cannot change, even if I went back in time, and I kind of see the outcome being exactly the same. So I can't even put hindsight to good use here, because I think it would have just turned out exactly the same way. And that is about my authorial practice project, which was a comic about the Titanic survivors and their perspectives. The regret is the fact that this project was the most affected by my granddad's death, and the reason why it was the most affected by it is because it was the one project that I had over my 3rd year that was only 1 semester long, and it happened to be in the 1st semester, and the 1st semester is when my granddad passed away, so it was definitely really, really difficult to get work done for this. I remember doing a live stream where I actually finished most of the comic pages, maybe even all of them. My development work, my final pieces, just everything about this project was affected by that huge bombshell that just went off in the middle of my university semester, and it was my 3rd year, and my granddad's death was definitely the decline, or like the downward spiral that my work would fall into in 3rd year. In terms of all 3 years, my 2nd year was definitely the best. Now, some people would say, oh, 3rd year's great, but I found the 2nd year the best because it had a tough enough workload where it didn't feel too easy. It challenged me and opened me up to new experiences, and the workload actually felt achievable. Whereas in 3rd year, everything ramped up. It's like I was scaling Mount Everest at a 90-degree angle. It was practically impossible to keep up, and the fact that my granddad passed away in the middle of all this mess was, it was my downfall. It was not great. And my 1st year in places definitely felt way too easy, especially in the digital processes class, because I already knew all of the Photoshop basics. I'd even done Illustrator basics in college, and I already knew all of this stuff. I was more advanced than some of my classmates were, and I'm not saying that to be mean, but I was there basically lounging around during the Photoshop classes because they were that easy. I could complete them like that. So there are 3 regrets to go in this video commentary. I hope this is not too long. Maybe you can just listen to this video, because I understand that people listen to my commentary instead of watch my videos, which is fine. I get it. I do it all the time too. This next regret was actually mentioned in my previous art talk video, where I mentioned it and actually brought up a more detailed point because it was relating to the character sheets. But just to sum it up, this is the joint degree regret, and I do actually regret not doing a joint degree with illustration and animation, and the main reason for it is because I enjoyed my illustration degree, but there were some things that I definitely missed out on that were more towards an animation-based practice. I actually go into more detail in my previous art talk video, which I will actually leave in the description and in the iCard as well. You can click in the right-hand corner of the screen if you would like more information on this regret of mine. So these last 2 regrets, if I should really call them regrets, because it's really an issue that I had with my university experience. It's not something that everyone suffers with, but it's definitely something I went through. Now, the main thing that I suffered with was the deadline depression, or at least that's what I called it. And it was for good reason it got that name. It was an awful experience. It's called the deadline depression because towards deadlines coming closer and closer and closer, you go into this cycle where you feel like you're not good enough, so that self-doubt goes into stress, goes into not having the time to worry about this crap, because those deadlines are coming for your sanity, all while not feeling like you're improving quick enough in your art style, which I'm still facing to this day, which results in art block, and just like that, the cycle takes off like my washing machine trying to break out of orbit. And the result of the deadly depression is actually my next issue, and it's the burnout. The burnout was incredibly severe, and it got worse every year due to the workload increasing. Third year was by far the worst, and it took me a month personally to feel like myself again. Usually to get out of burnout, most people would say, get out the house, hang out with friends. Well, because I commuted, none of my university friendships were actually very deep, and because of it, I felt so alone, like I had no one to wake me up or shake me out of my own despair, and the self-doubt and burnout just completely ate away at my soul. If you go to university and decide to do the commuting, be aware of the isolation you could feel. So definitely, if you have friends back home or around the area that you live in, make sure to keep in contact with them, or like just keep yourself close to people. Don't try and isolate yourself, and it's very easily done, especially when you're commuting such a long way. So I don't know if people are aware, but during that month where I was just completely burnt out, I actually did do a video and I talked about it during that month. So I will actually leave a link to that in the iCard and down below in the description if anybody would like to watch somebody who was completely burnt out do the May 2018 Copic colours. So I think the main thing that I'm going to end out this video with was my grade, or my degree class as some people would say, and I got a 2-2. Now for England that's pretty average. I do have my regrets about it, but some things that happened are things that I can't change, and how I reacted to it, I can't change that either. But there are things that I wish I would have put more effort into, or ideas I would have changed, as I said earlier in the video. But I definitely do put it down to my third year. It went so far downhill it fell through the floor. Life just decided to throw me a bowling ball instead of a tennis ball to catch, so it is what it is. But something I thought I would add to the end of this video is that, according to my calculations, I think I was very close to the grade I wanted, which was the next degree class up, which was a 2-1. And I'm not going to beat myself up over a few marks. I'm still incredibly happy and proud of myself for completing a degree in illustration. It had a lot of hard times, but it had a lot of good times as well. And overall, the course was incredibly rewarding, and if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would in a heartbeat. And although this was a negative video, I really wanted to put a positive spin on the ending. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you can like it, and you could subscribe if you haven't already, and you could do that with post notifications on for notifications for every time I upload a video or live stream, when YouTube works, of course. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys, thanks so much for watching or listening.